Good morning, ENG3U students. It is April 8th, and today we're going to be talking about witches and Macduff, but first witches. So, when we last left off yesterday, we were talking about how Macbeth has gone insane and seeing ghosts and everything like that. But now we've got some witches that we have to deal with. So after the dining room episode, Macbeth thinks to himself, okay, these witches are what got me this crown in the first place, so I need to go back to them and I need to get more information for myself, because things are starting to come unglued here, right? We've tried to kill Fleance, and that didn't work. So, well, I better go see what these witches have to say. So, turn to page 171 in your book here. We're going to take a look at Act 4, Scene 1. So this scene starts out with the witches talking about what they're going to put into their cauldron. And by the way, a cauldron is, something like that, right? It's a big pot where you make witches brew, right? Just like you see there, right? Green and bubbly. So they do a whole speech about, double, toil and trouble, fire, burn, and cauldron bubble. Normally, if I had all of you here in the class, I would totally make you guys do it, right? I would pick 3 of you from the class to do the witches part, but when we got to the all part, everyone has to say it, right? Double, toil and trouble, fire, burn, and cauldron bubble, right? That's a very famous line if any of you have kids and have seen any of their cartoons, and if there's ever been a witch, right? They always have a cauldron, and they always say double, toil and trouble, fire, burn, and cauldron bubble, right? And that's because, well, that's the influence of Shakespeare. So, nevertheless, they're making their potion, and, well, what's going to come out of the potion is some prophecies. So let's take a look from line 50. So Macbeth says, "I conjure you by that which you profess, however you come to know it, answer me. Though you untie the winds and let them fight against the churches, though the yesty waves confound and swallow navigation up, though bladed corn be lodged and trees blown down, though castle toppled on their warders' heads, though palaces and pyramids do slope their heads to their foundations, though the treasure of nature's Germans tumble altogether, even till destruction sicken, answer me to what I ask you." Speak. Demand. Will answer. Say thou if thou'dst rather hear it from our mouths or from our masters. Call 'em. Let me see 'em. Pour in sow's blood that hath eaten her 9 pharaoh, grease that sweeten from the murderer's gibbet throw into the flame. Come, high or low, thyself an office deftly show. So a ghost appears, right? That's what it means there when it says thunder, first apparition, an armed head, right? So just a head. That might be foreshadowing something. Tell me, thou unknown power. He knows thy thought. Hear his speech, but say thou not. Macbeth, Macbeth, Macbeth. Beware Macduff. Beware the Thane of Fife. Dismiss me. Enough. So, the first ghost gives a pretty clear prophecy, which is to beware the Thane of Fife. And if you haven't been keeping track of which Thane is which, the Thane of Fife is Macduff, right? That guy that everyone's starting to gather around over in England, right? He's also helping out Malcolm. So Macbeth is given a first prophecy here, which is to beware of Macduff, right? So he's target number 1 is Macduff. All right, let's see what else we've got here. Whatever thou art, for thy good caution thanks. Thou hast harped my fear aright, but one word more. He will not be commanded. Here's another, more potent than the first. So thunder, a second apparition, this one a bloody child. Macbeth, Macbeth, Macbeth! Had I 3 ears, I'ld hear thee. Be bloody, bold, and resolute. Laugh to scorn the power of man, for none of woman born shall harm Macbeth. And it descends. So that's prophecy number 2. No one born from a woman can kill Macbeth. Everyone's born from a woman, so he should be pretty safe, right? So this is good news for Macbeth, and he treats it as such when he says, there it is, "Then live, Macduff, what need I fear of thee? But yet I'll make assurance double sure, and take a bond of fate, thou shalt not live, that I may tell pale-hearted fear it lies, and sleep in spite of thunder." So he thinks, oh yeah, I don't have to worry about Macduff then. I'm not going to be killed by a woman, or killed by anyone born from a woman, I should say, which should be the human race, right? So he's still going to have Macduff killed just because of the first prophecy, but he's feeling much more confident here. Then you have a third operation, right? Thunder, third operation, a child crowned with a tree in his hand. What is this that rises like the issue of a king, and wears upon his baby brow the round and top of sovereignty? Listen, but speak not to it. Be lion-mettled, proud, and take no care who chafes, who frets, or where conspirers are. Macbeth shall never vanquished be, until great Burnham wood to high Dunsinane Hill shall come against him. And the ghost vanishes there. So, even more good news. So Burnham Wood is, just like it sounds like, it's a little forest, right? Dunsinane Hill is the area right outside of Macbeth's castle. So how can a forest walk, right? That's impossible, right? You can't have a forest stand up and come to the area outside of your castle or your house or whatever it is, right? So that is completely impossible. So that is another reason for Macbeth to feel great. So 2 prophecies are quite good from these witches, right? One of them is telling him he can't be killed by anyone born from a woman. Great. And the other one saying is that he's not going to lose power until Burnham Wood comes to Dunsinane Hill. Also good. The only one that's really maybe a little alarming is the beware Macduff part, right? So Macbeth, pretty happy with what these witches has to say, and he says, "That will never be. Who can impress the forest? Bid the trees unfixed his unearth-bound root. Sweet bodements, good. Rebellion's head, rise, never till the wood of Burnham rise, and our high-placed Macbeth shall live the lease of nature, pay his breath to time and mortal custom. Yet my heart throbs to know one thing. Tell me, if your art can tell so much, shall Banquo's issue ever reign in this kingdom?" So let's leave Banquo aside for now. So Macbeth's feeling pretty confident about this because, well, 2 of the prophecies are in his favor, and he just has to do one thing in order to get rid of that first one, which is to, of course, kill Macduff, right? So that brings us to our first question of the day, right? So we've got these 3 prophecies here, and we should know they're prophecies, but they're coming from the witches. Specifically, it's coming out of this, big, mysterious, boiling cauldron with, evil spirits coming out, right? Not exactly ideal. So, the question I'd like to ask before we carry on is, well, hang on. Why do you think Macbeth is trusting these witches? Why would you seek out witches for advice? Because that is essentially what Macbeth has done here, right? He's gone to these witches for essentially advice on how he should be living his life from now on. And as we're going to see, none of these prophecies, or well, almost none of these prophecies, are going to turn out in exactly the way he's hoping they turn out, right? And, you know, when you read the play, you might think to yourself, well, I kind of saw that coming, right? You know, what did you think was going to happen if you listened to witches? So why is it, do you think, that Macbeth trusts these witches? So send me an email with your thought, right? faisal.ahmed@tdsb.on.ca, right? Remember, by the way, this is just participation. I do hope that as many of you are sending answers to my questions in as possible, right? Because it's supposed to be easy marks for you guys, right? So don't think, oh, it has to be perfect after I write an essay. No. Just keep it simple, keep it nice, right? And send me your thought on that particular issue. Let's carry on. After the prophecies are finished, Macbeth asks for more. And this brings us to one of the most interesting parts of the play, which is this strange little parade that Macbeth sees with a parade of banquos. So you can find this on page 175 of your textbook, Act 4, Scene 1, line 123, where Macbeth says, "Thou art too like the spirit of Banquo. Thy crown does sear mine eyeballs, and thy hair, thou other gold-bound brow, is like the first. A third is like the former. Filthy hags, why do you show me this? A fourth, start eyes. What will the line stretch out to the crack of doom? Another yet, a seventh, I'll see no more. And yet the eighth appears, who bears a glass which shows me many more. And some I see that twofold balls and treble scepters carry. Horrible sight. Now I see 'tis true, for the blood-boltered Banquo smiles upon me and points at them for his." Right? So it's a parade of these little kings, right, that are coming in, and Macbeth is seeing all of these kids, one after the other, right, and you know, they aren't his kids, they're Banquo's kids. So, it may interest you to know that Shakespeare's king at the time was King James, and he was a descendant of Fleance, right? As we've mentioned before, Macbeth is based on a historical king, right? Obviously that king didn't know any witches, I assume, but it is nevertheless based on real characters. And Fleance was the ancestor of the king that Shakespeare was not serving, but living under, King James. And that king, by the way, is an ancestor of our queen, right? And I do emphasize our, right? Because we are here in Canada, in the Commonwealth of the British Commonwealth, not British Empire anymore, but that line has gone on since then, right? And the old lady you see on my screen right here, the Queen of England, is the descendant of Fleance as well. So most people who, or many scholars at least, who have read this scene, interpret this as essentially Shakespeare kissing up to the king and being like, "Hey, boss, look how great you are, look how many kings are in your family, and your line of kings is going to go on and on forever," which, you know, again, strangely enough, is true, right? There she is, right? There's Fleance, or Banquo's ancestor here. So most people are of the opinion that, you know, Shakespeare put the scene in to sort of impress the king, right? And make sure the king knew that Shakespeare was on his side and everything like that. But, you know, I've always looked at this scene in a different way, right? Because Banquo is not exactly a good person, is he? You'll remember on Monday we talked about this. Banquo wanted to benefit from Macbeth's reign, right? He knew that Duncan was murdered by Macbeth, but he was of the opinion that, Shakespeare was connecting Banquo to the king as... Wait, sorry, let me back that up a bit. I lost my train of thought. So, we know that Banquo is not a good person, so maybe if Shakespeare's connecting Banquo to the king, it's actually an act of sort of rebellion or defiance. Sort of saying, well, yeah, we've got our king here, King James, but his ancestor was ready to benefit from a coup d'etat, right? Benefit from murder, benefit from the slaughter of King Duncan, right? So maybe it's not so straightforward as just Shakespeare trying to show how much he loves the king. Maybe this was a way for him to actually criticize the king. So what do you guys think? Do you think Shakespeare's kissing up to King James here? Why or why not? And yeah, just tell me what you think about this, right? If you want to send a couple of sentences to me at faisal.ahmed@tdsb.on.ca, that is going to be a very good idea. Alright, so let's move on now from prophecies to what's going to happen with Macduff. So, Macbeth has been told to fear Macduff, and well, we know how Macbeth is solving his problems these days, which is to say he's doing a little bit of, throat slitting. So, Macduff is over in England, he's having a meeting with Malcolm, and Macbeth attacks his castle, which is called Fife, by surprise, and he has his wife and children killed. So, Lady Macduff only has a single scene before she dies. And she's also the only woman in the play besides Lady Macbeth. So let's just take a quick look at her, right? The thing is with her, believe it or not, is that this lady is meant to be a funny character. She's sort of a comic relief character. And I'm just going to look at a snippet of this, right? So this is on Act 4, Scene 2, line 55, page 185 of your textbook. So, let's take a look here. You'll see her, she's talking to her son about how she's angry at Macduff for running to England, or not really running, but just going to England to meet with Malcolm and leaving them alone. And she says, we should hang everyone, right? So here's what she says. Everyone that does so is a traitor and must be hanged. And her son says, and must they all be hanged that swear and lie? Everyone. Help me out here, thank you. Who must hang them? Why, the honest men. Then the liars and swearers are fools, for there are liars and swearers, and now to beat the honest men and hang them. Now God help thee, poor monkey, how wilt that do for a father? If he were dead, you'd weep for him. If you would not, it were a good sign that I should quickly have a new father. Poor prattler, have thou talk'st. So, Lady Macduff there is doing two things. First of all, she's saying to hang everyone, which is a kind of funny reaction to having her husband leave, right? And she's sort of joking around with her son here, saying, oh, you're going to not have a father because Macduff is going to die. And his son sort of replies, well, if you're not going to weep for my father, then I'm going to have a new father, right? As in, you're going to get a new man. So that's going to be just fine. So she's meant to be a funny character, right? She's meant to just tell some jokes and everything like that. And then after that, she is supposed to, just sort of get the sympathy of the audience, right? So that's something Shakespeare commonly does. But, of course, Shakespeare does this so that you're just sort of starting to like her, thinking, that lady's kind of funny, and then he kills her. Right, so the murderers come in, and they do what murderers do, which is to say kill the son, and also murder Lady Macduff. right? So they are killed just as soon as the audience gets to like them, right? And that leaves, Macduff with no family, right? So both the wife and the son are killed just so the audience is starting to get to like them, right? So that's sort of the whole point of that particular scene. But the scene has... So, what this means is that Macbeth is now sworn to... Or, I'm sorry, Macduff is now sworn to revenge against Macbeth, right? He didn't like him before, right? And he was opposed to him, but now Macduff is an enemy for life. It's no longer about politics for Macduff, it's about avenging his family. And we'll remember, the big prophecy number 1 from the witches, was beware Macduff, right? So Macbeth, perhaps foolishly, attacked this castle, killed his family, but didn't kill him, right? And has, in essence, made the Macduff problem very, very much bigger, right? Because, well, all of a sudden, Macduff is not just looking to restore the rightful king or anything like that, he's looking to kill this man, right? So that is another instance of a prophecy causing an outcome that you might not expect, right? Sort of similar to the witches coming in at the beginning and saying to Macbeth, "Thou shalt be king," right? Because now the witches said, "Beware Macduff," and so Macbeth said, "All right, I'll beware Macduff. I'll go beware him by attacking his castle and killing his family," right? So the witches caused him to do that, right? But by having him do that, now he really has to beware Macduff, because if there's one thing Macduff wants to do, it's see Macbeth dead. Alright? So, what do you guys think? Any questions about today's notes? If not, then we'll leave it there for today, and tomorrow we shall be discussing the very interesting tale of Lady Macbeth at the beginning of Act 5, and we'll be pushing on towards the end of the play. So I look forward to your questions, and I'll hear from you tonight. And for now, I hope you're all safe and doing well. Take care.